Welcome to Unity of Tucson. As I said before, I'm Dr. Jonathan Zenz, the senior minister here, and what a day it is. What a day it is. What a day this has been. What a rare mood I'm in. Why, it's almost like being in love. If you don't know my history, I am a musical theater actor once upon a time, and I still have songs in my head all the time. So there we are. Okay, so our purpose here at Unity of Tucson is not just to celebrate musical theater, but to provide a safe, loving, and inclusive space where everyone can explore the principles of the New Thought spiritual philosophy in order that we may master spiritual understanding, find personal purpose, and develop a spiritual path. That's what we're here to do. And Unity is a place where I think we are all invited to be as we are. I invite you to come as you are, to be who you are, and to shine brightly as you are. And I'm so grateful that that is how I think many of you show up. Actually, not just many of you. I see the light in every single one of you, so you are shining your light, whether you know it or not. So thank you for doing that. Now, you may not believe everything I say today. You may not believe everything you hear today. I think that's an important thing to acknowledge, because I am not here to tell you what to believe. I am not here to tell you what to think. I am here to offer the tenets of the philosophy, and you get to decide to what degree you may or may not put them to use in your life. So, if you hear something that butts up against your belief system here today, here's my recommendation. Be willing to just look at it free of judgment. Don't jump to conclusions. I was going to say contusions. Don't jump to conclusions, and just be willing to say, hey, this is some new information perhaps that I've not considered in this way, and does this work better for me than perhaps this over here in my life? Just be willing to look at that. Now, we do have a vision and a mission here at Unity of Tucson. I would love for us as a community to say out loud first these words of our vision statement. Let's say this together. We envision a world awakened to its magnificence. And as I say each week, the vision is the manner in which we are choosing to see the world, and the mission are the steps that we can put to practice in our lives that can allow that vision to come into full expression. So let's say these words of our mission statement together. Love only, forgive everything, remember who you are. Just take a moment and breathe that in. If it's comfortable, if you'd like to close your eyes, just taking a moment of silence to open up to the awareness of those words. Perhaps considering them in a way you've never considered them before, as though you're hearing them maybe for the first time. Love only. Forgive everything. Remember who you are. Love only. Forgive everything. Remember who you are.
Are you spiritual but not religious? Are you looking for more meaning in your life? Are you ready to create the life you know you deserve?
We can't wait to meet you.
Unity of Tucson, Sundays at 9:15 a.m.
So today is the fifth Sunday of the month, and if there's ever a fifth Sunday in the month, I mix it up. I mix it up a little bit. I don't prepare a message. And I have come to call the message title Lorem Ipsum. I talked about the last time we had a fifth Sunday. That is simply a placeholder in design, right? Lorem Ipsum, and there's like a bunch of fake Latin text that it gets used in design purposes to fill space when you're doing layouts and design and things. So I call this Sunday Lorem Ipsum, and what I have done is I have invited Reverend William Gill to join me here today. Yes. And we're going to work together to see what Spirit is providing for us in terms of inspiring you as a community today. Now, the way that I like to do this is I come in with these bags here. And what I would love for you to do is to let me know which bag you would like me to choose. I will admit the the first number I heard was 5. That was the first number I heard. So 5. In this bag is a book called The Power of Decision by Raymond Charles Barker. If you are not familiar with this book, this is one of my favorite books. And if you are new to the New Thought spiritual philosophy, I often say this is the first book you should read. That's just my opinion. Do you have a...
I don't have that book.
You don't have this book?
No.
Do you have a book that you recommend for people who may be new to the philosophy?
Discover the Power Within You by Eric Butterworth.
Which I did not choose as one of the options this week. Come over here, William.
That's the first book I read as I started my Unity journey back at Unity of Phoenix around the year 2002, 1-0. And it really lit up a fire in me. And it wanted me to find out more, and I kept finding out more, and here we are.
Here we are, right?
Yeah.
So there are 165 pages. I heard 98 first. Y'all are quick.
It's a lively crowd.
There are 3 paragraphs on this page. Which one should I go to? 1. Okay, it's actually the middle of the paragraph, so I'm starting in the middle of the paragraph. But I think it's a really good thing to consider. Raymond Charles Barker wrote this: spiritual ideas are free. They cannot be copyrighted or patented. They are mine to use, and I use them. I have been using them while writing this book. You know, he's writing in the first person, obviously. Spiritual ideas are always affirmative. They could never be destructive. I highlighted that. It's an interesting idea. Though they are thought-provoking, though at first they may seem nebulous. The thoughts they engender gradually reveal sense, and then the practical aspects are obvious. You know, then, what to do and decide to do it. You are acting as prosperity consciousness would act. I'm not going to read the whole thing again, but based on what you just heard, what's the first idea that comes to mind for you?
One word: decide.
Decide.
There is something called the creative process, and I'm not going to get into all the technicalities, but I kind of added one to the step to the creative process, which is decide. Because until we make up our minds to do what it is ours to do, it will not happen. So anything that you want in your life, you can think about it all you want, but until you decide to pursue it, it will only be a thought in your mind.
What is something you've decided to pursue recently?
Come here this morning.
Coming here this morning. That's a good decision. Good decision.
Actually, I wasn't joking. Silvana and I drove to LA this week to take care of some things and do a little sightseeing, and I came back totally tired. I don't know if it was the 8 hours of driving or all the excitement of being in LA, but I thought, man, do I have to get out of bed? And then, and I'm not making this up, I thought there is nothing else that I would do than be here this morning. So I got out of bed, I dragged my ASS out of bed, and here we are. And it's happened for 5 minutes, but I'm already loving it. So that's what I decided to do this morning.
It's beautiful. You know, the power of decision. I mean, there's a reason he calls this book The Power of Decision, because every spiritual idea has the capacity for you to decide whether or not you're going to move through and allow that to come into expression in your life. I love that this starts with spiritual ideas are free. We don't have to work so darn hard to allow those spiritual ideas to come into our minds and into our hearts. And if we are open and willing to be the conduits of spirit, and I think that is part of the experience of being wholly spiritual, that we are conduits for this expression to come into manifestation, we may want to consider being a little more willing to listen to those spiritual ideas as they unfold in our minds. I had a spiritual idea 12 years ago. And here's the thing. Sometimes the decision comes 12 years after the fact. But it is rooted in a seed that is planted. 12 years ago, I celebrated my 40th birthday. I was still living in Toronto, or actually, I should say it like someone who's from there. I was still living in Toronto. There's no second T, apparently.
Toronto.
I was still living in Toronto, Ontario, and I was serving as the senior minister at a community there. And I decided that after 40 years, it was time to learn to play the guitar. And so I went down to a music store and I bought a guitar. I thought, I'm going to learn how to play this. My 40th year, I'm going to learn how to play this guitar. 12 years later, rarely picking it up, this year I finally started actually focusing and learning how to play guitar. Now, part of that was an impulse that came through the expression of someone else in my life, and that is where I'm saying, like, the power of decision should never be ill-considered. That the decision in its expression may come long after you think it should show up. And so I had a musical person who was having a meeting with me in my office, and I have this guitar on a stand, right? And it's a beautiful guitar and just sits there on the stand and never gets played. And he said to me, "Tell me about your guitar." And so I told him, I said, I bought it for my 40th birthday. I thought I was going to learn to play it. I've never really taken the time or allowed myself to move in that direction. And he said, "Okay, I'm going to teach you how to play guitar."
Ooh.
And he's doing it as a love offering to me.
Ooh.
And so it's like, well, how can I turn that down? And so I am now actively, and he said, never call it practice. Whenever you sit down to play, call it play. You are playing the guitar, not practicing the guitar. He said, that consciousness is going to shift everything for you. So that was a decision, 12 years in the making. It's now come into expression, and I've got the G and the C chord down really well. That was a spiritual idea that was made free to me to allow to come into expression. And how exciting is that?
And along with that, there's the power of decision, but there's also the power of listening to the voice of Spirit.
Yeah.
Because it may speak to you 12 years back, you should play the guitar, and you should, but it may take 12 years for it to come to fruition because we get redirected through life. Music example, I was going to play here today. 2 songs. Ooh. And I practiced, and I got 2 music teachers, not one, and I was ready to go. And I play an electronic wind instrument. And 2 nights ago, I went to charge it because the battery was running low. And next morning when I woke up, it was dead. So I was kind of bummed out. I kind of wanted to play with this amazing group of people. But I know there's a reason. And I know that my journey is to follow through, to keep my decision that I am going to play, but to be willing to follow the road that Spirit lays in front of me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm going to talk, though, about this one sentence in this paragraph that I highlighted, where he wrote, spiritual ideas are always affirmative. They could never be destructive. Think about that. Spiritual ideas are always affirmative. They could never be destructive. And so this brings up a question for me in my heart, and that is, why do we experience seeming destructive behaviors in this plane of action?
Easy answer.
Tell me.
They are not following their spiritual ideas.
They're not following spiritual ideas. So what ideas might they be following? I mean, here's the thing. Is there a difference between spiritual ideas and other ideas? See, this is us putting each other on the spot.
Well, that's a tough one in my belief system, because I strongly believe that everything happens for a good reason.
Yes.
Even things that may seem bad, as I spoke about a couple Sundays ago. But on the other hand, I do know there is such a thing as separation. And I do know that many times I've heard the voice of Spirit say, do this, and my brain goes, we're going that way. And I think there's a lot of that going on. So on the one hand, I think it's all Spirit, it's all meant to be, but on the other hand, I think, and it's been documented in some books I have read, that the mind can choose. And spirit will speak to you, but your mind may make different choices. Perhaps for an ultimate good purpose, I don't know. But I think that when it doesn't look so good and perfect, it's because we are choosing with our mind, not following the voice of spirit. What do you think about that?
I agree with that. I think that's a really smart way of considering it. You know, when I was at the convention a couple weeks ago, I went to one of the workshops, and one of the topics of discussion was this idea of 3 different brains that actually are part of the physiology that we all have. They talked about the cephalic brain, which is the brain we all consider. They talked about the cardiac brain, which is the brain of the heart, and they also talked about the visceral brain. And I think if we are willing to let go of what the cephalic brain, the brain, is thinking all the time and trying to override what we feel in our heart and in our stomach, our gut, right? You ever have a gut feeling? That's the activity of that aspect of what I will call the brain. Now, is this real science? No, not really, but perhaps.
Actually, it is.
So tell me, I'm going to set that down. So if we are willing to allow that heart space consideration to be the point of view from which we are acting upon these spiritual impulses and spiritual ideas, what is that? Is there like a physiological response for you?
There is. And there is a book and actually a whole movement called Heart Math.
Yeah.
And if you check out that book, it will talk about how the brain has a power many times, the heart has a power many times greater than the power of this brain here. And that things that we feel in our chest, oh, I'm in love, or it's because there is actually consciousness there. So if you're interested in the science of the heart as a center of consciousness, and maybe visceral too, check out Heart Math, the book. There's actually several peripheral books, but that whole science of heart math and how the heart has a much greater thinking power. Thinking may not be the right word, but a much greater consciousness than this brain here. Yeah.
Math, heart math.
Heart math, as in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, heart math. Yeah. Another thing that you touched on was this idea that the reason that we experience seeming destruction in the experience of this world is usually rooted in a consciousness of separation, right? And it is one of the fundamental tenets of the New Thought philosophy is this, that all discord unfolds rooted in a consciousness of separation, thinking that there is us and something else. That's why I work so diligently every week to invite us into the understanding of we are the divine essence, we are the divine power. There's no aspect of our beingness that is not wholly divine. And I will go so far as to say, you are God, I am God, we are God, because there can be nothing separate from the infinite. We are part of that infinite wholeness, so there is no aspect of our being that is not wholly divine. And when we embody that understanding, when we feel it, ready, at the gut level, and we feel it at the heart level, and we work to convince our brains at the cephalic level, like we can allow ourselves to really let go of the need for destructive behaviors in our own life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you look at history, separation has been tried over and over.
Yeah.
The Syrians, the Greeks, the Romans, the British, the Americans, and it's never prevailed. Always in history, after the separation, there is a greater union. And that's why I am very concerned about the separation going on. But if history has anything to tell us, out of this separation that we're experiencing now, there will be born a much greater union.
I agree with that. Yeah, and that's for me an antidote to the fear that I experience from so many. And I won't deny that I get wrapped up in that fear thinking sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
I have to step back and go, you know what? No, I know a greater truth here. I know the truth that irrespective of what the circumstances of the world seem to be telling me, I am the creator of my own experience in this world. And I can let go of that idea that any of that has any bearing on my well-being. And I can walk through life as a conduit of and an expression of love, peace, joy, beauty, wisdom, inspiration. That's what I choose to do. But it's a choice. It is a choice to do that. There are some people who don't make that choice.
Not yet.
Not yet. Not yet, but they will, I believe. And choice is the capacity that I think we all have at our core that is the expression of infinite freedom. And, we're about to step into this week is the Independence Day in the United States. And, it's a celebration of freedom, right? Well, let us look to the freedom in our own minds and in our own hearts and acknowledge that our freedom resides in our capacity to make choices. Are all those choices always good? Well, I can tell you I've demonstrated bad choices in my life at times, probably even more recently than I would like to imagine.
Me too.
Yeah, but I'm willing to also take a look at those choices, and if something is not working for me, guess what? I am not relegated to live the unfoldment of that choice for the rest of my experience. I get to make a new choice, and that is also part of the power of decision.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. How are you feeling?
Awesome.
Yeah, me too. I'm going to grab the book again.
How can you not feel great being here with these people?
I love being here with all of you.
Yeah.
Yes. People often tell me that they need a great deal of money right away, and they are not interested in being told that they must have a prosperity consciousness. So you can probably tell that this chapter is on prosperity. And it's an enigma. Which comes first, the money or the prosperity consciousness?
Easy answer.
The consciousness. Yes. Yeah. They do not want creative ideas. They want money. That's the next sentence he wrote. I realize that they will not get the money without the consciousness of money, so I get out of their way. So, are we willing to step into a prosperity consciousness? And not just with money. With every aspect of our being, with every aspect of our lives. We live immersed in infinite abundance.
Yes.
Really just take a moment to consider that. We are immersed in infinite abundance. Everything that we could possibly desire is available to us. What comes up, and this is a rhetorical question, what comes up in your mind in relationship to that statement? Because I know for me, for a long time, I was like, yeah, right. I don't live in an infinite abundance. Look at my life. That's the whole thing I'm trying to invite us into letting go of, is looking at our life to try to prove spiritual principle. Let us acknowledge and adopt spiritual principle and see how our life transforms itself.
Actually, I think that our lives are proving spiritual principle.
Always.
It's just that it's proving the thoughts we hold in our mind.
Yeah.
So I have found out that when prosperity, real good prosperity comes to me, I don't seek it out. It comes to me. But it only comes to me when my thoughts are positive. When I look for the good, when I focus on positive happenings, they show up. And when I do the opposite, they show up.
Yeah.
So.
And there's an impulse that I think unfolds from the point of view of that spiritual, the spiritual practice that we engage. And I talk a lot about, if our spiritual practice does not impel us into action, and I want to be clear, I use the word impel rather than compel, because being compelled into something feels like it's forcing us. An impulse is just a recognition of the power within. And if I am allowing myself to be impelled into action through my spiritual practice, here's what I know. Whatever shows up must be right in the experience of it. And it's always, if I'm in that impulse state, it always feels good. It always feels good. Yeah. Yeah. What else comes up for you?
Well, it's what you said. I used to give an analogy that is now dated, but your feelings are your compass. They will show you the way. I don't mean your thoughts as in what you think should happen, but what the heart, visceral brain is telling you, that is your compass. Updated analogy, that's your GPS. So your GPS shows you which way to go. your gut feelings will show you. They have shown me, at least. As Jonathan always says, I can only go by my own experience. But my gut feelings have always shown me the better way, always. Sometimes my brain has vetoed my gut feelings, and things don't turn out so well for me. But my GPS, my internal GPS, my visceral, heart-centered guidance always has worked well for me. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think what comes up for me, and this is what I think we leave everyone with today, is trust your spiritual ideas. Trust your spiritual ideas. Learn to recognize those spiritual ideas that are from the place of love, light, life, peace, joy, wisdom, harmony. Allow yourself to acknowledge those things as they well up and seek expression through you, because spiritual ideas are seeking expression through each and every one of us. And here's the thing I've also learned. If I am not willing to act upon a spiritual idea, guaranteed that spiritual idea will find some way to demonstrate itself in this plane of action, and it may be through someone else. So I'm really grateful for that, but also, why not step forth in my own sense of spiritual power to act upon the ideas that are that I'm finding myself invested in?
Yeah, decide.
Yeah. And decide. That's the power of decision.
Yeah.
I'm so delighted to share this time with you on stage. Reverend William, thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was fun. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Peace and blessings. You are absolutely magnificent. There is homework still. Part of this is because I like the experience of just seeing what book comes out, what wants to be read, and so that to me is opening up to a sense of wonder. And so today I'm going to invite us all to engage in this practice throughout the week, to begin each day with the affirmation, I am open to wonder. Instead of seeking certainty, approach every moment as a sacred unfolding, and allow curiosity to replace judgment. And so see what comes up in your heart. You know, we're talking about the other brains. See what feels right for you in this exploration this week. So that is the home practice this week. I invite you all into that, and I am so blessed by each and every one of you. Thank you so much.